The Predator's arrival. The asteroid mining colony of Kepler 442 bits had been operating in peaceful isolation for 3 years when the Predators arrived. The small human outpost, carved into the metallic heart of a resource-rich asteroid, hummed with the steady rhythm of industrial machinery and the quiet conversations of 57 colonists who had made this harsh environment their home. Colony Administrator Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck, watching the morning shift change through reinforced transparent aluminum windows. At 34, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen both the best and worst of human nature. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her work clothes bore the stains of someone who wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty alongside her people. The proximity alarm shattered the peaceful morning routine with its harsh electronic wail. Sarah moved quickly to the communications console, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface with practiced efficiency. The display showed 6 vessels approaching fast, their configuration unlike anything in the Colonial Registry. All stations, this is Administrator Chen, she announced over the colony-wide comm system. We have incoming vessels of unknown origin. All personnel move to secondary positions and await further instructions. This is not a drill. Mining engineer Tom Rodriguez appeared at her shoulder, his weathered face creased with concern. Sarah, those ships, they're not broadcasting any identification codes, and they're coming in hot. Through the observation windows, the approaching vessels became visible as sleek, predatory shapes that seemed to cut through space with deadly precision. They moved in a formation that spoke of pack-hunting tactics, surrounding the asteroid colony with calculated efficiency. The lead vessel docked with the main airlock with barely controlled violence, the impact sending vibrations through the colony's superstructure. Sarah felt her pulse quicken, but her expression remained calm. Years of military training before joining the colonial service had taught her that showing fear was often the first step toward becoming prey. The airlock cycled with mechanical precision, and then they emerged. The creatures that strode into the colony's main corridor were the stuff of nightmares made manifest. Standing nearly 9 feet tall, the Zephyrians moved with the fluid grace of born predators. Their muscular forms were covered in scales that shifted color from deep amber to threatening crimson as they moved. Elongated skulls housed rows of razor-sharp teeth, while their hands ended in retractable claws that could slice through steel. At their head walked the largest of their kind, a massive specimen whose very presence seemed to fill the corridor with menace. Scars crisscrossed his hide, telling stories of countless hunts and battles won. His eyes, yellow as molten gold, swept across the human colonists with the calculating gaze of an apex predator sizing up potential prey. "I am Corex," the creature announced, his voice a rumbling growl that seemed to resonate from deep within his chest. "Alpha of the Crimson Fang Pack. This territory now belongs to us." Sarah stepped forward, her movement deliberate and unhurried. She had learned long ago that predators respected confidence, even in their prey. "I'm Sarah Chen, Colony Administrator. This asteroid is registered to the Terran Colonial Authority under interstellar mining rights established by the Galactic Commerce Treaty of 2387. Corex's lips pulled back in what might have been amusement, revealing more of those deadly teeth. Behind him, his pack members spread out in a formation that was clearly tactical, positioning themselves to control key access points and escape routes. "Treaties," Corex spat, the word carrying all the contempt a predator might feel for the laws of lesser beings. Paper and digital noise that mean nothing to those with the strength to take what they desire. His lieutenant, a slightly smaller Zephyrian, with distinctive silver markings across his snout, moved closer to a group of human miners who had been caught in the main corridor when the pack arrived. The humans instinctively clustered together, their faces pale with fear. "Look at them, Alpha," the lieutenant called out, his voice carrying cruel amusement. They huddled together like herd animals. No claws, no natural armor, no real teeth to speak of. How did such weak creatures ever leave their home world? Corex moved with surprising speed for such a large creature, closing the distance between himself and Sarah in 3 long strides. He loomed over her, using his size as an intimidation tactic that had worked on countless worlds across the galaxy. "You smell of fear, little human," he growled, leaning down until his breath warmed her face. "Your heart beats faster, your breathing quickens. Your body knows what your mind refuses to accept, that you are prey, and I am the predator." Sarah met his gaze steadily, neither backing down nor looking away. "I smell of industrial lubricants and recycled air because I've been working. And yes, my heart rate has increased, but not from fear, from calculation." The response was unexpected enough that Corex pulled back slightly, his head tilting in a gesture that spoke of predatory curiosity rather than immediate threat. "Calculation," he repeated, the word coming out as more of a hiss. "I'm calculating how many ways this situation can end," Sarah replied calmly. "Some better than others for all concerned." Vilex, the lieutenant, laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "She thinks she has options, Alpha. Shall I demonstrate how few choices prey animals actually have?" Before Corex could respond, Sarah spoke again. "Before anyone demonstrates anything, perhaps you could explain exactly what you want. You've made territorial claims, but you haven't stated your intentions regarding the existing population." Corex's golden eyes narrowed. Most prey species would be begging for mercy by now, offering tribute or submission. This human's continued calm was beginning to irritate him, though he found himself reluctantly impressed by her composure. "Our intentions are simple," he said, beginning to pace around her in a wide circle, never taking his eyes off her. "This asteroid contains rare metals that our ships require. We will take what we need. Your people may continue their small mining operation as long as you do not interfere with our harvesting." "And if we do interfere?" Sarah asked, turning slowly to keep him in sight as he circled. "Then you will learn why the Crimson Fang Pack has never failed to claim territory we desire," Corex replied, his claws extending slightly in a display of threat. "We have taken worlds from species far more dangerous than humans. The Chronary Battle Legions, the Crystalline Vex Collectives, even the war machines of the hegemony, all have fallen before our hunt." Behind him, the pack members began to spread out further, moving with the practiced coordination of predators who had worked together for years. They positioned themselves near critical systems: the power distribution node, the communications array, the atmospheric processors that kept the colony habitable. Sarah noticed their movements but gave no sign of concern. Instead, she nodded thoughtfully. "Impressive resume. But I have to ask, how many of those conquests involved species that had specifically prepared for your arrival?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Corex stopped pacing, his full attention now focused on the small human woman who continued to speak as though she held cards he couldn't see. "Prepared," Vilex snarled from across the corridor. "What preparation could possibly matter against the Crimson Fang?" Sarah smiled then, a small expression that somehow made the temperature in the corridor seem to drop several degrees. "That's an excellent question. Would you like a demonstration?" Corex felt something shift in the atmosphere of the confrontation. For the first time since arriving at the asteroid colony, he sensed that he might be missing something important. The human's confidence wasn't bravado or denial. It felt like the quiet assurance of someone holding an advantage. "What kind of demonstration?" he asked carefully. "A simple one," Sarah replied, reaching slowly into her jacket pocket. Every Zephyrian in the corridor tensed, claws extending and muscles coiling for action. But Sarah's movement was deliberately visible and non-threatening as she withdrew a small handheld device. "This is a standard colony management tool," she explained, holding it up so they could all see it clearly. "Every administrator carries one. It monitors atmospheric conditions, tracks personnel locations, manages work schedules, basic administrative functions." She paused, her thumb hovering over what appeared to be a simple activation button. "It also does one more thing that might interest you," she continued conversationally. It can send a priority alert to every piece of automated defense equipment in this colony, activating protocols that were installed the day we first detected Zephyrian scout ships in this sector 3 months ago. The revelation hit the pack like a physical blow. 3 months ago, they had been so careful, so stealthy in their scouting operations. The idea that these seemingly primitive humans had detected them was almost incomprehensible. Impossible, Vilex growled, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. Our cloaking technology is superior to anything humans possess. Superior to anything we possessed 3 months ago, Sarah corrected. Human engineers are remarkably creative when they're motivated by survival instincts. We've had time to prepare. Corex's mind raced through the implications. If the humans had known about their presence for months, if they had been preparing defenses specifically designed to counter Zephyrian tactics. You're bluffing, he decided, but even as he said it, he was reassessing the colonial facility with new eyes. What he had dismissed as primitive human engineering might be camouflaging defensive systems he hadn't recognized. Sarah's smile widened slightly. Would you like to find out? The challenge was clear, and Corex felt his predatory pride responding before his strategic mind could intervene. No prey animal had ever challenged him so directly, and the presumption demanded a response that would reestablish the natural order of predator and prey. Yes, he growled, his pack sensing his decision and beginning to tense for action. Show me what preparations could possibly threaten the Crimson Fang pack. Sarah's thumb moved toward the activation button, and in that moment, both predator and human committed to a confrontation that would determine not just the fate of the mining colony, but the reputation of one of the galaxy's most feared hunting packs. The next 5 minutes would change everything. The human's gambit. Sarah's thumb pressed down on the activation button with deliberate precision, and the mining colony transformed in an instant from a seemingly defenseless outpost into something far more dangerous. The first sign that the Zephyrian pack had severely miscalculated came from the walls themselves. What Corex had dismissed as standard industrial paneling suddenly shifted, revealing weapon emplacements that had been hidden in plain sight. Electromagnetic pulse cannons emerged from concealed positions, their targeting systems already locked onto each pack member with mechanical precision. But the weapons weren't the real surprise. The real surprise was the sound. A low, thrumming vibration that seemed to come from everywhere at once, resonating through the asteroid's superstructure and into the very bones of every creature in the corridor. The Zephyrians, with their enhanced predatory senses, felt it more acutely than the humans. Vilex was the first to recognize what was happening. His enhanced hearing picked up the subsonic frequencies that the human engineers had specifically calibrated to disrupt Zephyrian neural pathways. Alpha, he gasped, his voice already beginning to slur as the sound waves interfaced with his species' unique brain chemistry. They're using sonic disruptors. Corex tried to lunge toward Sarah, his predatory instincts demanding he eliminate the threat, but found his movements becoming sluggish and uncoordinated. The carefully tuned frequencies were designed not to harm, but to temporarily overload the hyperactive neural networks that gave Zephyrians their supernatural reflexes and coordination. Fascinating species, the Zephyrians, Sarah commented conversationally, watching as the most feared predators in the galaxy struggled with increasingly impaired motor functions. Your enhanced nervous systems make you incredibly effective hunters, but they also create a very specific vulnerability that most species don't know how to exploit. The third pack member, a female Zephyrian named Scarix, managed to raise her weapon with trembling claws, but found that her targeting systems were responding sluggishly to her commands. The sonic disruptors weren't just affecting their biological systems, they were also interfering with the neural interfaces that connected Zephyrian hunters to their advanced weaponry. How? Corex forced out through gritted teeth, his massive frame swaying as he fought against the disorienting effects. 3 months of preparation, Sarah replied, her voice carrying the satisfaction of a plan coming together perfectly. When our long-range sensors detected your scout ships, we immediately began researching everything known about Zephyrian biology and tactics. Turns out, there's quite a lot of information available, if you know where to look. She gestured to the concealed weapon systems that now had each pack member targeted. The Hegemony War archives contain detailed analyses of Zephyrian weaknesses, documented by military scientists who survived encounters with your kind. The crystalline Vex collectives maintained extensive neurological studies from their conflicts with your species. Even the Chronary battle legions left records of effective countermeasures. Tom Rodriguez appeared from a side corridor, carrying what looked like a standard mining tool, but moved with the confidence of someone who knew it was something more. Behind him came other colonists, each carrying devices that Corex was beginning to recognize as repurposed mining equipment, tools that had been modified for very different purposes. You see, Sarah continued, beginning to walk around the immobilized Zephyrians in a slow circle that mirrored Corex's earlier intimidation tactic. Humans have a particular talent that most predator species seem to overlook. We're very good at learning from the experiences of others. Vilex tried to activate his emergency beacon, intending to signal the pack's ships to begin orbital bombardment of the colony, but found that his claws wouldn't respond properly to his neural commands. Worse, the device itself seemed to be malfunctioning, its display flickering with error messages. "Your ships won't be much help either," Sarah observed, noticing his frustrated attempts. "We've deployed broad-spectrum jamming fields that specifically target Zephyrian communication frequencies. Another gift from the research archives. Apparently the Vex developed them during their war with your species." The fourth pack member, a young male named Threx, who had been eager to prove himself in his first major hunt, collapsed to one knee as the sonic disruptors continued their work. His enhanced metabolism, designed to fuel rapid predatory reflexes, was working against him now, spreading the neural disruption effects more quickly through his system. "This is impossible," Corex managed to growl, though his voice lacked its earlier commanding presence. "Humans are prey animals. You lack the instincts, the cunning, the killer drive that separates predators from food." Sarah stopped directly in front of him, looking up at the massive alien who no longer seemed quite so threatening. "That's your mistake, Corex. You think in terms of individual predators and individual prey. But humans, we're pack hunters. We've always been pack hunters." She gestured to the colonists who had positioned themselves throughout the corridor, each one armed and ready, each one knowing exactly what their role was in the coordinated response. "The difference is, our pack includes every human who has ever faced a threat like you, and lived to document what they learned." The fifth pack member, Gorak, attempted to deploy his species' traditional intimidation display, extending his claws, inflating his throat sacs, and releasing pheromones designed to trigger fear responses in prey species. Instead, he found that the sonic disruptors had disrupted even these basic biological functions. 57 people in this colony," Sarah continued, her voice taking on the cadence of someone delivering a lecture, "but we had access to the accumulated knowledge and experience of the entire human species. Every encounter with your kind, every tactical analysis, every successful defense, all of it available to us through our data networks." Tom Rodriguez stepped forward, his modified mining laser now clearly visible as a weapon. "We spent 3 months turning this entire asteroid into a trap specifically designed for Zephyrian hunting tactics. Every corridor, every room, every system, all of it optimized to counter your advantages and exploit your weaknesses." The sixth pack member, Zorax, made one last desperate attempt to reach the emergency controls for his combat armor, but found that even the neural interfaces for his equipment were responding sluggishly to his impaired nervous system. "The sonic disruptors will wear off in about 10 minutes, Sarah informed them matter-of-factly. "Your ship's systems will recover from the jamming in approximately 20 minutes, which gives us just enough time to have a conversation about the future of this territory." Corex's pride burned even hotter than his frustration. To be defeated so completely, so quickly, by creatures he had dismissed as insignificant prey animals was almost beyond comprehension. "What do you want?" he forced out. "First, I want you to understand something important." Sarah replied. This isn't just about our little mining colony. Word of this encounter will spread. Other human colonies will learn from our experience, just as we learned from the experiences of those who faced you before us. She paused, letting the implications sink in. Every human world will know exactly how to counter Zephyrian tactics, your pack hunting strategies, your intimidation techniques, your technological advantages. All of it will be documented, analyzed, and countered. The young Zephyrian, Frex, looked stricken as he realized what this meant for his species' reputation as apex predators. If humans could consistently defeat Zephyrian hunting packs, other species would lose their fear of the Crimson Fang and their kin. Second, Sarah continued, I want you to return to your ships and send a message to the Zephyrian Predator Council. Tell them that human territory is now off-limits to hunting packs. Any attempt to claim human worlds or colonies will result in similar educational experiences. Vilex managed to raise his head enough to meet her gaze. You think this changes anything? We are still predators. You are still prey. Sarah's smile was genuinely amused now. No, Vilex, you're still thinking in terms of individual encounters. But humans don't fight as individuals. We fight as a species. Every defeat you've suffered here today will be transmitted to every human world within hours. Every tactic you've used will be countered before you can use it again. She gestured to a small recording device that had been documenting the entire encounter. This conversation, this defeat, will become part of human military training for generations. Your pack's tactics will be studied in our academies. Your weaknesses will be taught to our children. The full horror of the situation was beginning to dawn on Corex. It wasn't just that they had been defeated. It was that their defeat would make every future hunt exponentially more difficult. The element of surprise, the fear that preceded their reputation, the psychological advantage that came from being unknown predators, all of it was gone. You're turning us into a case study, he realized. Exactly, Sarah confirmed. In human culture, we have a saying. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Your species fooled the Chronari, the Vex, the hegemony forces, but you'll never fool humanity twice. As if on cue, the sonic disruptors began to wind down, their job completed. The Zephyrians felt sensation returning to their limbs, their neural pathways slowly clearing of the disruption effects. But the weapons remained trained on them, and they were now fully aware that 57 humans surrounded them, each one armed and prepared. Your choice now is simple, Sarah said as Corex slowly regained his full mobility. You can accept that human territory is off-limits to Zephyrian hunting, or you can continue to test our defenses and discover that this colony was actually the easy difficulty setting. Corex straightened to his full height, his pride warring with his strategic mind. Every instinct screamed at him to fight, to restore his pack's dominance through violence. But his rational mind understood the trap they had walked into, and the larger trap that awaited if they continued this path. The Crimson Fang pack withdraws our territorial claim, he said finally, each word feeling like swallowing glass. But this encounter will not be forgotten. I'm counting on it, Sarah replied. The more your species remembers this day, the fewer misunderstandings we'll have in the future. As the Zephyrian pack began their humiliating retreat to their ships, Corex paused at the airlock and looked back at the small human who had orchestrated his defeat. You broke more than our pride today, he said quietly. I know, Sarah replied. I broke the myth that humans are defenseless prey, and myths, once broken, can never be fully repaired. The Crimson Fang pack departed as quickly as they had arrived, but they carried with them the knowledge that the galaxy had changed. Humanity was no longer prey to be hunted. They were predators to be avoided. And somewhere in the vast network of human colonies and worlds, the story of this encounter was already being transmitted, analyzed, and incorporated into the ever-growing database of human knowledge about how to survive in a galaxy full of predators. The 5 minutes that had changed everything were over, but their consequences would echo across the stars for generations to come.